Let's get going. So let's just sort of find our seat. And ideally, if possible, our feet are on the floor. Maybe not, like, depending where we are. But if you can, grounding your feet on the floor, roughly distance apart maybe, or even wider if that helps you feel a bit more stable through the legs. And then I'm just going to invite you just to either using the back of your chair or sitting forward from it. You can always scooch a bit further forward in your chair, but just finding a sort of length through your spine. And when you do that, I'd love you just to notice if you immediately sort of get really rigid and stiff. And if you do, that's very normal, but just allow everything to get a bit softer. So finding a length, but not sort of so we're like holding and gripping. Almost as though you had a string. Morning, Sarah.
Morning. Sorry, I've got internet issues, so you might see me disappear again.
That's all right. Good to see you. So just imagining almost that you had a string going all the way through the middle of your body, and it was just sort of coming out through the top of your head, just sort of the crown of your head sort of lifting up towards the sky. Lovely, everyone. And you might want to close your eyes here, just as we settle in. You might want to keep them open. I'm going to leave that decision in your hands. And we're just going to take a couple of moments, and you might want to start to breathe with me, breathing in through your nose or your mouth, whichever's easier. But exhaling with a bit of a sigh, letting your breath come out through your mouth and just letting those exhales have a bit of kind of landing power. Like if you were just kind of settling in, they're just going to help you arrive. You might imagine that as you exhale, your body sits a bit heavier in your seat or gets a bit comfier, and you might be using this initial settling in time to physically move around a little bit and find a seat that's comfy for you. Fidgeting is welcome in this yoga class. It might not be in others, but it is here. And we use our breath if we feel like that's a comfortable option for us in yoga as an anchor. So we use it to try and keep us a little bit more present in what we're doing. But the breath is just one way we can do that. So if focusing on your breath perhaps doesn't feel safe for you, or is triggering, or is just unpleasant for whatever reason, you can focus on something else. And often I'll give like the suggestion of just the feel of your feet on the floor or the feel of your bum in your chair as an alternative, but it could be any sensation that you feel comfortable connecting with and coming back to when you can. Fabulous. Now we're going to just practice this month a mudra. A mudra is a position with the hands and the fingers. Mudra means seal in Sanskrit, like it's not a seal as in an animal seal, but a seal. Create a seal. I was gonna do a seal noise then, and then I was like, I don't know a seal noise, so I'm gonna.
I was about to do one as well. I had to stop myself.
Oh, go on.
You like what's the is that?
Yeah. You got it.
Okay. I've just let Charlie in. Good morning, Charlie.
Yeah, morning. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
Don't worry at all. Don't worry. We haven't done much yoga yet, actually. We've been talking about seals. Okay, so we're going to bring the tip of our index finger, our pointing finger, just underneath the tip of the thumb, and I'll just come a little bit closer, just so you can see. So I've got my thumb, got my pointing finger, and I'm just going to bring them like that. Yeah, and you could do this with one hand or both, or you could just visualize it and let the hands rest. the other fingers are as relaxed as we can make them, which is actually quite hard for me on the other hand. I find they go kind of rigid. And then just rest your hands or hand on the legs. This is called chin mudra. Chin meaning consciousness. And the finger and the thumb represent, in this position, the finger represents our kind of what we might call a limited perspective of ourself, and the thumb represents like this big, expansive, limitless perspective of ourselves. And you're sealing the two together, connecting with this kind of big, expansive like view of yourself and what yourself is. It's also, whether the eyes are closed or open, it's a really helpful way, these mudras, which we'll maybe try some different ones over the next few weeks, is another way of kind of anchoring our attention. So it's just a light touch, and you can just breathe kind of in a comfortable way, maybe focusing on that sensation of finger against thumb, if that's a helpful place to land your attention. And as you just kind of rest here, I would love for you just to sort of notice where your mind goes when you give it a moment. Mine doesn't stay on my fingers and my thumb. It tries to go in loads of different places. And when we practice yoga, the biggest thing, I guess, is that we're kind of practicing gently pulling our mind back to the present. We're doing that gently and kindly. So if you sort of imagined that you saw somebody take a wrong turn and they were sort of walking down the wrong road, very sure they were going in the right direction, you might gently kind of take their hand or just guide them back onto the right path. You wouldn't be like, hey, you're going the wrong bloody way. Or maybe you would. Imagine sort of going, hey, it's this way, like come with me. That's the kind of attitude that we want for ourselves when we're practicing yoga. So when our mind does go in other places, we're not thinking about punishing ourselves or thinking that we've done something wrong. We're just going, hey, it's fun to focus on this for a minute, and then the rest can wait. It's easier said than done, but that's why we practice it together. And you can let the hands relax now. So just kind of give the fingers a wriggle, let the position of your hands, your thumb and your finger go. Just maybe even shake out your hands. And if you've had your eyes closed, just start to blink them open gently. Perfect. Yeah, nice little handshake. Good. Hands can rest back on the lap. They can hang by your side, or if you've perhaps got armrests, they might be more comfortable there. We're just going to start our movement, and we're going to start our movement at the feet. So just take your attention down to your feet, and we're just going to begin by picking up just the toes if we can. Should probably take my slippers off. So just picking up the toes and then placing them down back on the floor. Now, if you want to try inhaling as you lift your toes and exhaling as you settle them back on the ground, perfect. If you just want to focus on the moving and trust that your breath will just do what it needs to do, that's also fine. So I'm just picking up the toes and then kind of letting them rest back down. Some people might want to do like one toe at a time. That's not within my capacity. But some people maybe are able to kind of place the toes down a bit more steadily. And then we're going to flip it. We're going to just pick up the heels. So we start to sort of stretch through the bottoms of the feet, and you might feel the backs of your calves engage as you pick up your heels. And then again, you're just going to settle them back down. So picking up the heels and then landing them back down. Doing that just a few times like we did with the toes. And again, if the feet sort of rearrange themselves on the floor or in their position this time, that's fine. You might find that they want to be a bit wider or a bit closer together.
Sorry, the doorbell went, Meg.
I didn't hear it, Jackie.
Ah, well.
Didn't hear a thing.
My husband was outside, so I had to do the honours. Right. Well, are we on toes still?
We're on heels.
On heels, okay.
Heels. So just picking up the heels, almost like you're wearing high heels, and then placing them down. Good. So it sounds kind of silly, but just by something like this, what the reason, or one of the reasons, beyond just it's nice for the feet to move and mobilize, is that we're trying to just connect to where our feet are. And we know where they are. We know they're on the ends of the legs, but like it's kind of like them being on the ground and then being what is, or part of what is supporting us. And you can just rest the feet, and you might just want to give them like a little tap on the floor, or you might want to do like you did your hands, just extend one leg and give the foot a shake and then the other. Brilliant. And then just taking your attention just to your right leg. So let your left leg stay where it is. We're going to just extend through the leg and not lift it up too high, but just extend it out, and then just give the foot a little point and a flex. I'm going to keep mine quite low to the ground, and we don't need to hold it off the floor for very long. You might just do a couple of point and flexes. You could support your leg a little bit with your hands, and then we'll switch over. Just give both sides of the body. And with everything that we do, I would advocate always for using like visualizing a movement as a really helpful alternative to the movement itself if you need to. So your brain is still creating those connections in that moment, like you're imagining it rather than doing it, but it's still having that effect of awareness and connection. Nice. And then let that side just relax down. Let the legs maybe kind of soften, have a little wriggle around in your bum. If you've not done yoga with me before, you won't have heard me remind you gently that it's completely fine to kind of move the flesh of your bum cheeks kind of out to the side a little bit. Yeah, and when you sort of, I mean, we can't physically move them completely, but we sort of just almost like you're kind of spreading your butt cheeks a little bit. So graceful. But just to kind of feel a bit more comfy in your seat, I'm always kind of, have a little shuffle, or even just a rock, like from one hip to the other, is a really nice kind of way of sort of resettling yourself in your seat. Bro. Amazing. Perfect. So with the feet, just one more time here, just having a little leg and feet focus. Your position where your feet are now, which is maybe hip distance apart, maybe a bit wider. We're just going to heel toe the legs a little wider apart, and then heel toe them back in. And you could do one at a time, or you could do both together. And then for just a kind of point of reference, if our body is able to go super, super wide, we're going to resist the super, super wide stance. And maybe kind of, if you imagine a clock face, imagine where like 1 or 2 o'clock would be on the right side, and maybe where 11 and 10 o'clock would be on the left side. We don't want to go past those o'clocks. So even if your body, your hips are able to go wider, we're just going to sort of keep it a little bit more contained, so the body's just a little bit safer. Good. I've got a really creaky chair as I do this one. And the next time you bring the legs back in, heel, toe, again, still connecting with feet on the ground, but also just starting to mobilize through up towards the hips and the inner thighs. We're going to land the feet in the middle. And when you get there, just take a minute. Don't rush to get there. Just take your time. Beautiful. We're going to just pause and we're going to just come back to maybe 3 to 5 steady breaths if we can. So just breathing in through the nose or the mouth, whichever's the most easy for you to get the breath in. And then again, breathing out like we did at the beginning, like through the mouth, or you can breathe out through your nose now if you prefer. Just steady. And if it helps, sometimes I will add just a couple of words to focus on. And it can be as simple as breathing in, I am breathing in. Exhaling, I am breathing out. Sometimes the words are more helpful for us to build focus than the active breath itself. And it's completely fine, whichever you might use. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to just take the movement up the body a little bit. So we're going to do a few movements now that are really nice for sort of across the back, the mid and the upper back. If we feel tension in that place, if we often feel tight or restricted, these movements are going to be hopefully quite helpful in just gently mobilizing and maybe creating a bit of space. So thinking upper back and mid back, sort of right at the back of the rib cage. So you've got option here to kind of fold your arms either close to your body, or you can lift them up and be away, but that feels like it's harder work. So you might do a little bit and then you might rest them back on the body. And we're just going to take, as though you were trying to get one elbow down towards your thigh. I can't get there, but and then you're just going to come back up. So always going to come back through a nice tall sitting position. And we're just going to start to sort of teeter-totter. Yeah, you've got it. Elbow towards thigh. If you make contact, that's fine. But if you have a tendency to easily overstretch. Bye, Sahira, my darling. See you soon. Then make the movement smaller to begin with. So we're targeting the sides of the body as well as the back here. And it might feel a bit different for those of us who've got the arms folded close to the body than those who've got the arms maybe out. If I bring them out, I feel the stretch a bit further up in my back. If they're here, it feels a bit lower. There's no right and no wrong. You might just want to play with a couple of each, or stick to what feels the best. Really nice. Good. So we're using like very slow repetitions so that the muscles and the tissues that we're trying to sort of create a bit more space in, we can have a pause whenever you're ready, are getting sort of slowly encouraged to warm up. It's like if you were to chew a little bit of really hard chewing gum, initially it would be really kind of hard. And then over time, or Play-Doh maybe, as you warmed it or as you chewed the gum, it would get softer and kind of more malleable. And that's what this kind of slow and sort of repetition does to the muscles and the tissue in the body, is it slowly starts to warm things up and get things a bit more lubricated than they were in the beginning. Fabulous. So you can always, as we sort of work through these, keep the ones in your head that feel really good. You can come back to them anytime. If one other option is not your favourite, come back to something that feels good if you want to. The second one we're going to try is just if you bring your hands to the center of your chest, or the hands on your chest, or one hand on your chest. And this time we're going to cross over. So the same kind of cue of moving your elbow towards your thigh, but we're going to try and move it towards our opposite thigh. So I'll show you and then you can have a little go. So we're sitting up kind of as tall as we comfortably can. And then we're turning, so our spine is twisting. And it's like we're trying to move our tip of our elbow towards our thigh or our knee, perhaps. And then we're coming slowly back up. Now we have to be kind of kind here with our thoughts and our language, because thinking about flesh in your thighs and flesh around your belly, that will naturally sometimes limit how far we can go, especially if we're sort of leaning forward or folding forward. Like, as much as I joke about moving our butt cheeks out the way, we can only move our flesh of our body so much, right? That is not a bad thing, it's just a factual thing. So if you find yourself kind of feeling like as you lean forward, there's a restriction because of maybe flesh around the body, just try and be really careful with how you react to that. It's not a bad thing, it's just literally, it's the way that our body is. Sometimes you can sort of gently move the flesh slightly to help that feel a bit more comfortable, but you don't need to force or contort yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Nice. And you could even do this without your arms. You could sort of just take your chest towards the opposite thigh. It's a little different. And you're kind of setting how quickly or slowly you're moving here. I'd always encourage you to move slowly, but you're not worrying about keeping up with anyone else on the screen or worrying about how many of things you're doing. They look really good, everyone. Well done. And then next time you come back through the middle, let's just have, again, a little pause. Just give your body the chance to wriggle out anything that feels like it wants to wriggle. Maybe you want a sip of water or tea, or you just want to sort of rearrange your seat again. Those little kind of readjustments are really, really important. Not only do they help us feel more comfortable, but they're you checking in with what you need. So I always encourage them. Perfect. Thanks, I'm listening. So our last movement here for a minute is we're gonna twist in our seat, and then we're gonna kind of twist in the opposite direction and open up through the front of the chest and the width across the back of the body. So I'm starting facing forward, and I'm going to bring a little bit like we just did. It's a similar movement to this movement that we were just doing, whether we were with or without the arms. But we're going to bring one arm across towards the outside of our opposite leg. Your other arm, some people might want to just take it behind them and sort of just hold the back of your chair. You might just want to let the arm relax. It's entirely up to you. And we're going to move from this twist to sitting back up tall, and then as you sit tall, you're going to turn all the way around to the opposite side. But this time keeping everything upright. So we're going from a sort of a slightly leaning forward twist here to a really tall twist here. As you twist in that direction, that same arm might want to reach across in the direction that you're twisting. You might want to rest the arm. You might want the arm to just catch the back of your chair. And then just you set the pace. You're going to move slowly through those two movements a few times. always coming back through center and taking a rest at center if and when you need it. And then taking it over to the other side. And focusing on your breath where and when you can. Like, we don't want to get really caught up. If we forget about our breath, it doesn't matter. We'll just come back when we know. And actually, our breath can feel quite different when we're twisting, because sometimes when we twist, what we're doing is squishing everything inside a little bit. So it can feel harder to breathe more deeply when we're twisting through the spine. And that's completely normal. You look really great, everyone. Well done. Make this one the last one that you're doing here, just for a moment, and just coming back to rest. It might be nice just to really lean back into your chair just for a minute. Like, let your spine really, like lean back and let it all hang out. And just kind of let everything relax. Because the muscles that support your spine are doing a lot in that movement. I know we're doing it slowly and mindfully, but the muscles that support the spine and that support the spine's movement are actually doing a lot. So it's nice just to let them do a bit and then let them be soft. Amazing. You can also, next time when we come, before we do the other side, if you want to take a gentle cat and cow, that might be a nice little reset in the middle. So from a slightly more upright position, when we've had a moment to rest, just tucking your chin and drawing your pelvis like up and under towards your belly button so that your spine slightly rounds. That's our cat pose on our chair, and our seated cow pose is the pelvis will rock back, it will tilt back, and by that movement then opens up through the front of the spine, the chest, and the front of the shoulders. We're really mindful with the neck in this movement. We're not kind of throwing the head. The neck is an extension of the spine. But we're really mindful to always make sure that the chin isn't coming all the way down to the chest. And that when we arch the back into our cow, we're not dropping the full weight of the head back. The neck is really protected. Lovely. Beautiful. Do those twisties on the opposite side of the body. And then that's our last movement for today. We'll kind of take things, winding them down and sort of letting things settle in. Then we're just flipping positions, flipping sides. So this time we're going to take a twist. Arm comes over to the opposite leg. We twist, but there's a slight lean. Other arm might come behind the chair, might stay relaxed, or might just rest on the hip or the waist. And then we start to sit tall. Bring the chest through center. Turn the chest and the ribs and the belly towards the opposite side. And maybe that arm wants to reach a little bit or wants to hold on. And just like in our cat-cows, try and think of your neck as an extension of your spine. So even if we're twisting, I don't really want our neck to twist any more than our spine is twisting. So trying to keep your gaze in the same direction roughly as where your chest is facing. That's just going to help us not sort of crank the neck around further. Yeah, amazing. They look great. And just moving between the two at your pace. There might be one particular side or one of those positions that feels just extra nice for you today that you hold for a bit longer. Or you might decide that you've had enough twisting and you really enjoyed those cat-cows and you come back to those. Or anything else that we've done so far. The little elbow dips. Good. It's all about just sort of finding what feels good and right. Amazing, everyone. I'm going to make this the last one, unless you're really enjoying it, in which case I won't stop you. And then again, just deciding when you rest that movement, whether some stillness is what you would like to take for a second, or whether you want to take those cat-cows, or there might just be like just a kind of the desire to just wriggle, fidget, shake things. Yeah, like just see what is right here. It doesn't have to be specific. Feeling it. Well done, everyone. Nice. And kind of coming back slowly and steadily just to a nice relaxed sitting position. Maybe this time you do sit back into your chair again. If you've got a cushion or like an extra support for your back that you want to use for a minute, or even if you want to switch seats and you want to move into a slightly more comfy, softer seat, just kind of doing that. And if your eyes want to close again, then perfect. But don't feel like you have to close them. You can always take your gaze to something in the space around you, if it's something like on your wall or just something where you can sort of just gaze at, rather than closing your eyes down completely. And then we're just going to take a little journey from our head down to our feet. I'm just going to call out a few body parts on the way down, or areas of your body. And we're just going to move our focus down through each part as I call it out. We don't have to do anything. And if I call out a part, an area of the body that you don't want to take your attention to, don't do it. But it's a practice of observation, of just being curious. When you get to a certain body part, there might be a sensation that's there. That sensation might be a good one, or it might be something that we don't necessarily like so much. It might be pain, it might be tightness or restriction, or if it feels safe to take your attention there, we're just trying to practice like this non-judgmental kind of viewpoint of it just being what it is, but also being really careful with where our capacity is today, and if there is somewhere that isn't going to help to focus on, we just skip it and come back in when you're ready. Really important. So just taking our awareness to the top of the head, the crown of your head. And then the face. Lots of little tiny muscles in your face. Maybe as you're aware of that part of the body, can you relax your jaw maybe, or relax your forehead just a little bit more? The neck. And then your shoulders. Your spine, and let your spine, if you're leaning into something, really lean. Let the support of your chair take your weight and hold you. And then the same with your pelvis and your hips. Really let them soften, wriggle them down into your chair perhaps. Try not to hold back in sort of letting the chair take your weight. Moving your attention downwards, the thighs, the lower legs, and finally the feet. So we began our movement at our feet, and we're going to just end our practice with our feet. So you can give the toes a wriggle if you want to here. You can lift the toes, lift the heels like we did at the beginning, sort of bookending your practice a little bit. Like you've done a full journey around the body. And then just letting things rest. And because we're all at home, there's the option to always have a bit longer, just quiet relaxation after our session together finishes. And I never want to, always just want to encourage that that is completely fine if you've got the time for that. But otherwise, just allowing yourself to notice how you feel, if that's possible. And then bringing into your attention, your mind's eye, or imagining it right there in front of you, just something that you in this moment are grateful for. If it's the kind of day where finding something to be grateful for is hard or impossible, then I can give you a suggestion, trying to be grateful for the fact that literally you got here, you turned the computer on, and that there are other people on the other side of the screen who are pleased to see you and who are grateful for you doing that too. Take a big deep breath in if you want to here. And when you're ready, letting it go. Maybe doing one more like that. A big breath in, maybe the biggest breath you've taken so far today. And then letting it go. And if you had your eyes closed, just start to blink them open. If you've been still, just start to let your body wriggle and move again. Maybe if you feel like you drifted off or spaced out somewhere, just bring yourself back to kind of what's around you. What can you see? What can you hear or feel? Amazing. And that brings us to the end today. So I'm so grateful for you all for being here. It's so nice to see your faces.